Everyone, welcome to the CuberCast Podcast, where we talk about what's happening in cubing. I'm Carter Cubes on Twitch and YouTube.
I'm Cameron. I don't have a YouTube channel, but yeah, I'm just here.
I'm Humble Cuber on Twitch and YouTube.
And I'm Carter Kid on Twitch and YouTube.
In today's episode, we'll be interviewing an incredible all-rounder, Max Siauw. We'll be asking him our own questions, as well as some questions that you guys, the audience, have submitted. We hope you enjoy.
Hello, my name is Max Siauw. I'm a 14-year-old speedcuber from Washington in the United States. And yeah, I'm happy to be on the CuberCast podcast.
Thank you for joining us, Max. Okay, so let's just get into the question. So starting off with the first one, what do you think is your biggest cubing accomplishment?
Yeah, so I would say I have multiple cubing accomplishments that I'm really proud of. I guess for one thing, definitely my sponsorship with the Cubicle that happened around, I think like February-ish of 2019. I just remember like literally the moment I got an email back from Jules saying that I was sponsored, I was in my mom's car and I was just so happy. Like I was pretty much screaming on the inside of happiness. It was great. On top of that, I'm also really proud of making finals at US Nationals. Also probably my Square One official results because that's my best ranking officially. I think I'm 10th in the world for average, which is really cool. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that a couple of people can relate to being sponsored here. I think Carter Kid and Humble are both sponsored by the Cubicle. So
I can relate. It's a very exciting thing when you get that email back.
I definitely feel the excitement there.
Our next question is, what does your practice routine look like? Is it just grinding out a ton of solves, or are you trying to use different techniques, for example, untimed solves or just speed blind solves?
Yeah, when it comes to practicing, it's definitely not. Sometimes it is just doing a ton of solves, but when I can, I don't do that. I think it's best to be practicing sort of productively. Like if you can help it, you should try to every now and then, watch walkthrough solves, maybe learn a few new algs here and there and things like that. Like I know, for example, I think around 2018, like I was improving a lot in like Megaminx and 5x5 and 6x6, things like that. I didn't just do solves. Like I remember going onto Cube Skills, watching walkthrough solves, learning edge parity algorithms, like all of that. Like in order to become fast, it's not only solves, unless I guess you're practicing clock or something. But generally speaking, in order to improve, you should be trying to learn as much as you can when you're practicing.
Yeah, I think that I feel like that there's a mixed opinion on like what to do to improve. So, for example, some some people, what they just say grind all day. Some people, what they say is that just learn algorithms for one day, then you can just do solves occasionally. I feel like that. The opinion on that is very mixed along the cubing community.
Yeah, like myself, I kind of believe that deliberate practice is very important, like noticing your mistakes.
I would say I'm the type that just mainly does grinding solves.
Yeah,
I don't learn that many algorithms, but I just learn the necessary algorithms and then just grind solves from there.
Yeah, I'm the same, but I've been trying to do more deliberate practice recently. Like recording your own solves definitely helps, and you can try to really find out what you need to work on.
If you know me, I have 46,000 solves in my 3x3 session in CS Timer. That's just because I did a ton of practice. And for something like clock or mega or 3x3, a very important aspect is practice. But for something like 2x2 or Squan, you also need to know a lot of algs. It's not just practice. So yeah, I have a mixed opinion on how to practice.
So going ahead and moving on to the next question. In your opinion, what was the hardest event to learn and what was the hardest event to get good at, considering you're an all-rounder?
Yeah, okay. Hardest event to learn. That's a pretty hard one. I think I'd have to go with either big blind, like 5 blind, or FMC. Probably FMC, just because I know FMC is, I think, in my opinion, it's easily the event that's most different from all the other ones, because I think it's pretty much the only event that's not focused around speed solving. And so I think that really different aspect was kind of difficult for me when I first started FMC, because there's all of these techniques you need to learn. Like you have to learn NIS, you have to learn how to do commutator insertions, you have to learn a lot of block building, and yeah, it's a lot less practicing. It's a lot more learning, I think, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And also, hardest event to get good at. Honestly, I'd have to say Pyraminx and Scube. Just looking at my WCA profile, those are my worst event. Those are my worst events on my profile. And I just think, I don't know, the reason why they were so difficult for me is just because I've developed really bad turning styles from the start. I guess, for example, on Pyraminx, you're supposed to do like U and U prime with your index finger, kind of like a flick, if that makes sense. But I didn't learn that until like 4 months ago. So yeah, probably Pyraminx and Scube.
My Scube turning is garbage, and my pure turning, like as you said, that you move flick. I didn't know that for a while, and for me, it's pretty hard to do. And Scube, I can barely do Polish. And just turning is garbage.
I mean, I honestly like can't relate. If I had to be honest, I mean, I know that you're supposed to develop turning at the start, but when I was learning Scube and Pyraminx, those kind of just came to second nature to me. I was like, oh, okay, I'll just.
Yeah, it's definitely varying on the person.
Pura Yumu, the Pura turning, like, it was kind of the same case for Drew Brads. Like he kind of recently posted that video on like completely changing how I saw Pyraminx, and he basically just corrected his entire turning style.
Yeah,
I still don't have good turning style for Scube or Pyraminx. I definitely need to work on that.
Next question: will we ever see a return to Max Siauw on Twitch?
Okay, yeah. I get this pretty often, and I'm just gonna be like straight up, like I'm gonna be as honest as I can. Probably not. I think so. Yeah, I did a lot of streaming during the summer because I had a lot of free time. So I'm very, very likely not going to be streaming during the school year just because of the work that I have to do. But once summer comes around, I still don't think I'll be streaming. I just know that, I don't know, streaming wasn't the most fun thing in the world for me. Like, I know there are definitely people who really, really enjoy it. But personally, I found it a little boring at times. Obviously, that's more of a me thing than other people. So yeah, it's just me.
Like, most of the people in this call, everyone but Cameron has streamed or does stream on Twitch, and we know it gets tiring at times, so yeah, I feel you, Max.
Yeah, I kind of lost motivation to stream mainly because of my software and also because no one comes to my streams, which is quite sad, but I think that streaming itself is a good idea. I think that it's a direction that we should be headed in terms of like actually producing content as YouTubers.
Definitely.
I just think it's like not for everyone.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, so now let's move on to the questions that you guys submitted. If you would like to submit questions, you can go to our Discord server and to the Q&A section, and you can just ask questions there. And yeah, let's just get into the first question. So the first question is from Kangaroo25. What do you think is the most underrated and most overrated WCA events?
Okay. Underrated events, honestly, I think I'm gonna have to go with Clock. Especially with the new hardware and the Chi clock. I think honestly it's a really fun event to practice. It's obviously gotten a lot of hate. I know people are starting to like it a little bit more because of the Chi, but I think even then it's still pretty hated. And I don't know. Personally speaking, I just really enjoy practicing it because I mean the thing about clock is that to get good at it, you don't have to be, like effort. You don't have to like spend your days tirelessly learning new algs or things like that. It's just a bunch of grinding, and if you like that kind of thing, which I do, then Clock is a really fun event. So that's probably my most underrated event in my opinion. For overrated event, let's see. I would probably have to say Pyraminx. Yeah. Once again, this is a very biased opinion. Because I guess, as I said before, I've never been good at Pyraminx. It's an event that doesn't come naturally to me. I'm just overall I'm pretty bad at it, and I just think I feel like it's definitely a more luck based event than it is a skill based event, and a lot of people do really like the event. So yeah, all of these things put together, I just think it's a bit overrated in my opinion.
I definitely agree with you about the Pyraminx. I definitely think that Pyraminx is one of the first not unconventional puzzles that beginners learn. However, I don't really think that it's the best. I personally like Megaminx. I think that's the most underrated event. But Clock is very interesting because it does take a lot of effort. I guess it does take effort, and there's also a very high DNF rate. But other than that, it's actually kind of an underrated event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As Clock being a main event and stuff, I definitely see it. This is kind of biased, but I definitely see it as underrated, and there's definitely some unneeded hate in the community for the event.
Yeah.
Like for adding on, basically Clock, it's pretty much just a different kind of event in general, like more of just accuracy and like there's no algs. So like it's basically just turning accuracy, which is like very different from all the other events.
And to quote Stanley Chappell, the hardest event is definitely clock. And the amount of DNF rates and misturns, it just proves that clock is the hardest event. We can all agree that clock is a very underrated event, but it again, to quote Stanley Chappell, clock is rough. If you misturn by the smallest bit, I was competing today, and I misturned by the smallest bit, and it was the difference between a 6-second solve and a 9-second solve. I misaligned my cross by a tiny bit, and I had to go fix it before I did corners. If you don't know anything about clock, this is very confusing. But basically, I screwed up a part in clock, and then I just had to redo it, and it cost the solve. So, yeah, clock and Megaminx, in my opinion, are the most underrated. And overrated, sorry, Cameron, but I think OH is pretty overrated. I mean,
honestly, it is.
Yeah. I agree completely.
Sorry, Cameron, but OH is pretty overrated.
I understand.
It's okay. Nothing personal.
If cubing were to... Alright, next question. If cubing were to disappear from the face of the earth, what hobby would you take up and why?
All right, well, this is a pretty interesting question. So, if cubing were just gone, theoretically, I think one of the biggest hobbies I'd have would just be playing video games. I already occasionally play Minecraft with my friends, and I guess I would keep doing that. And honestly, I might like start up a YouTube channel and like put a lot of effort into that as well. I don't know. I just feel like if I weren't, because like as a speed cuber, like I do have a YouTube channel, but I don't put as much effort in it as I know other people do, because most of my videos are unedited anyway. But I think if I weren't a cuber, I think I would put more effort into my YouTube channel. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. About your YouTube channel, if you haven't already seen Max's video on 5 years of cubing, congrats, by the way. 5 years of cubing is insane. Yeah, and how far you've gotten in that amount of time is awesome. That video is actually very well edited. I really enjoyed it. If you haven't seen it, make sure to check it out. It makes me very emotional because of comps. I really wish comps would come back. Yeah. Very often.
I've never been in a comp, and I'm very, very sad that I have never been in a competition. Hopefully, I can get to one this year.
Yeah,
we're crossing our fingers. But
comps are just an amazing place to hang out and meet other people with the same hobby as you.
Yeah.
I remember when I went to my first comp, it was just like so incredible just seeing like 100 other people that enjoy the same thing I. Yeah.
It doesn't matter how fast you are when you go to your first comp. I averaged 19 at my first comp, and everyone was still so accepting. A guy helped me set up my cube. People were giving me tips because I was nervous I wouldn't get a sub 20 average. It was just a great place and a great experience, and I really hope they come back soon.
Yeah.
True.
It's been about a year since they were gone, right? So
yeah.
Over a year, I think.
Okay. Oh, okay. What hobby would I take up? I think a hobby that I would take up would definitely be either chess or gaming. Gaming was pretty big for me until cubing arrived, which was like last year. So, I might take up gaming, but I actually do play a lot of video games, to be honest. But chess is also very cool because it's literally a strategy game, which is sort of like cubing. It's not like cubing, but you get what I mean. It's a lot of there's a lot of strategy involved into it, so it's more of it's another mind game in our world. So yeah, that's what I take up.
Yeah.
I would probably return to card magic because, as my name implies, I was a card magician. I'm the card trick kid. But cubing kind of took it over. I really don't do cards as much anymore. Like, I still have a bunch of decks on my desk, but I rarely touch them. I'm kind of getting sad just talking about it, that my name is kind of meaningless now. But yeah, I'd probably just go back to doing card magic and gaming. Cubing, if I couldn't cube, I'd probably just game and do cards. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. I actually have a deck of cards right here sitting next to me because I used to be into cardistry and that stuff as well. But honestly, if cubing just disappeared, I would probably go back to more sketching and drawing because before cubing, I spent a lot of time every day doing some drawing and sketching. I even had some commissions I used to do. And I'd also probably get more into game development with Unity.
I feel like card magic before cubing is a pretty common pattern among cubers. I know a bunch of cubers who are magicians before starting cubing. And I'm pretty sure maybe it's just because both of those hobbies require a lot of dexterity. But I think it's pretty cool that a lot of cubers were card magicians before, just magicians in general. Pretty cool.
Okay, I would probably just do chess because, like, I remember when I first started cubing, there were a lot of new hobbies that I was trying, and like chess was one of them. And yeah, if cubing didn't exist, I just feel like I would do chess.
Moving on to this next question, what is your biggest cubing fear?
Cubing fear. This is not something I think about on a daily basis. But all right, sort of an improvised answer, I guess. A cubing fear would just be, making finals at a really, really big comp, such as Worlds or Nationals, and then just completely embarrassing myself. I could get like a 6.5 average in semifinals, and then I can go up to finals, go head to head against, I don't know, someone, and just get a 9 average. Like, that's probably my biggest fear. Just kind of almost embarrassing myself in front of so many people like that. I think, yeah, that'd be it.
This is mainly based on like the community, but I realized that like 2020. So one of my biggest cubing fears is that the whole community, like, this is all going to come to an end one day, and there's going to be an end point to cubing, even if it's within the next 20 years or the next year. There's going to be an end to cubing. So I feel like my biggest cubing fear is that we're kind of dying off a little bit too quickly, because all of these YouTubers, I'm not going to call anyone out, but I think that that's one of the factors. But the main factor is 2020, 2021. There are no comps, or at least there are very little comps, and the only comps that are happening are in the same places. So I think that's probably my biggest cubing fear, not about myself, it's just about the community in general.
Yeah. Shout out to Australia and New Zealand for wearing masks, because they have competitions like every week. So yeah, shout out to them.
Yeah,
they're very lucky. True. My biggest cubing fear is probably, I don't know, actually. It's kind of similar to Carter's. My biggest cubing fear is that this will all be for nothing. Like, I'll be like 20 and regretting my life decisions when I won't be able to use my hands because I spent hours spinning a plastic toy. Or like losing my sponsorship. I hope that doesn't happen. But yeah, those are some of my biggest cubing fears.
I don't think you should be that concerned about your sponsorship. You should definitely be sponsored. So yeah.
Thank you. My biggest fear is that just comps won't come back. They've been gone for like a year. I'm just scared that they will never come back. But I just really hope they do.
I kind of have two biggest cubing fears. It's a little bit of a mixture between Max and Card Trick Kids fears. So I am worried about losing a sponsorship, of course. That's always something you should worry about. But there's also nerves at a competition, and then failing like a big competition like Nationals or Western Championships or something like that. Just choking at those competitions and then losing out on the possibility of actually podiuming.
All right, so my biggest cubing fear is actually kind of interesting, but basically for like WCA comps, when I go to compete, like I'm just doing really good, but then when I actually compete, I just completely fail. And then it's actually happened quite a bit, especially with one event, and it was like really frustrating just not being able to beat my PR average for like 5 comps, even though I like practiced so much before the comp. It was feeling great. Yeah.
I am worried that I will fail a little bit because this next cubing at home has clock in it. I actually have a small chance of podiuming, but I am worried that I will fail though.
All right, and the final question. Did you have any intentions to be an all-rounder when you first began cubing?
Okay. I don't think so. Because I think when at the very beginning, like when I first started cubing, like literally the day I got my first cube, I thought that this would just be a hobby where I would learn to solve a cube and that'd be it. Like that was my intention, I think. Like I wouldn't get any new speed cubes. I would stick with my Rubik's brand, and that's just the only thing I'd ever have. But clearly that is not how things turned out. Now I'm a sponsored cuber, which I'm really happy about. I don't know how many puzzles I have in my collection, but I have probably a couple 100, 200 maybe at most. Something like that. So I've got a ton of puzzles of literally every single WCA event. And so, yeah, definitely not at all. I had no intentions whatsoever to be an all-rounder. Just it just happened. So yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that I became an all-rounder because it's honestly so fun just practicing everything.
So that pretty much concludes this episode of the CuberCast Podcast. We hope you enjoyed. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe, or if you're listening on Spotify or SoundCloud, and I think we're on Google Podcasts now, I think you can follow.
If you're listening on any one of our services, subscribe, follow, share.
Yeah, we're on a bunch of platforms now, so the podcast is much more accessible. Again, we hope you enjoyed. Huge thank you to Max for coming on today. It was really fun.
Yeah.
And yeah,
also, wait, before we go, happy 5-year anniversary.
Oh yeah,
That
thank
is
you.
a huge milestone.
Yeah, big congratulations, Max.
Yeah, big
Thank you.
congrats, Max.
Yeah, it's crazy to see how far you've come. Like, considering I found your channel in August 2018.
Yeah, aren't you Alpha Bouncer? Isn't that your channel name? Or
It used to be. Yeah.
oh, people are like, no, it's been a great 5 years. Like people like you, my friends, everyone, super nice people. Like the community is great.
I'm not kidding. You're actually one of my idols. So thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you.
Again, thank you guys so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed. See you guys next week.